Welcome to the Middle Ground, Michigan. Shocking truth dropped on Friday. Jeffrey Epstein met his first known victim, a 13-year-old girl, at a fancy Michigan arts camp. He apparently groomed her there. Years of hell followed, and the elites that possibly let it happen are still walking around. The Department of Justice just dropped 3 million videos, I believe a couple 100,000 images. And if I'm right, let me see here. No, over 2,000 videos. And again, a lot of the stuff you can find on justice.gov. Plenty of news places in Michigan have covered it as well. But welcome to Middle Ground, Michigan. This is our first episode that I'm recording myself here. The show where we're going to try to cut through the outrage, cut through the malarkey. This isn't some stuffy news reporter thing. This is just real, honest, average people talking, myself talking, guests as we get them on here. The January 30th, 2026 release, it's having a big impact. Friday's dump it was enormous. I'm sorry, actually, it's 3.5 million pages, with the flight logs, the notes. There's no fairy tale client list, but the patterns do scream elite contacts after conviction. The redactions thick for victim privacy, but some people say that more than that is redacted. But here in Michigan, it hits hard early. He wasn't visiting here. He was in deep. He was a teen camper at the Inner Lunch in 1967. He was a big donor from 1990 to 2003 scholarships. I believe he funded a lodge there that was named for him until 2008, and he visited with Maxwell. Post Florida 2008 plea, the camp erased his name, severed ties. They audited records not once, but twice. No on-campus issues found. But the real damage was already in motion. How deep did this go before anyone even noticed? Because this guy he had issues, and it's obvious. And the one good thing I can say is from everything that I'm finding, unless you guys know more, maybe drop it down here in the comments. Not a ton of Michigan stuff, so kudos, that's a great thing. But here's something that's going to really get you going. This talented voice kid, she was apparently alone on a bench between classes. Epstein and Maxwell slid up. Flattery, mentorship, patron of the arts, classic predator playbook, according to the documents that have been released. They whisk her off campus. Well, Lord knows where they're going to go from there, right? Abuse ramps up for years. She called herself the guinea pig, their test run for grooming tactics, apparently. But apparently, they settled the lawsuit in 2021 with via the Victims Fund. The release is some kind of closure there, though there really is never any closure to those kind of situations. I mean, I've never been in that situation, so I can't really say. I'm just glad that Michigan is not in deeper. I can't say how much that is a relief for, especially being a resident here. But the camp, they're a top tier Michigan camp, right? Thousands of gifted kids go there every summer. And parents, when you send your kids to camp, you're thinking they're going to be safe. You're thinking the stuff, right? And do I think the camp had anything intentional going on? Just based from what I'm reading, no. So this is not a bag job on the camp. Just putting out what's out there. As far as I'm aware, as far as what I can see, once they found out things that were going on, they addressed it, and they addressed it right away. Kudos to them for doing the right thing as fast as they found out. But how many kids turned into entry point for one of history's most notorious predators, if not the most notorious publicly that we know of? How many have slipped by that haven't talked out? Why did full details on this stuff take decades to surface? But the camp, full federal cooperation. Obviously, they said they had, as far as we can see, no prior knowledge. Obviously, with everything, safety is a huge priority for them. It's a legit response. But the question seems to still burn. How does a guy like Epstein get donor access that close? It's rage-worthy when you think about this as your kids. I have sons too. I have a 7-year-old and a 16-year-old. This pissed me off, man. But the question still seems to burn to me. How does a guy like Epstein, let's just stick to the facts. No proven wider Michigan ring. I don't want to get too worked up because, when it comes to our kids, people, it's very, 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 very easy to, kind of go overboard, right? Especially with me. I'm very protective. My 7-year-old, he's autistic. So, it really digs at you. But, beyond them, slim pickings. There's flights to Traverse City, camp only. Apparently there's a letter with Nasser, hoax, post-death, bad handwriting. The DOJ and FBI shut it down quick. Apparently, there is no evidence that that is real, but the internet is going to run wild with it. The X rumors, again, these are rumors, and there's no substantiated stuff to it. The regions and emails, there's Kalamazoo hits, Lake Michigan conspiracies linking old cases, zero file proof. There's been no proof that, as I can see, and from what I can find on the internet, again, no news agency's been able to find it. The documents that I was able to look through and scan, and when I searched with some Michigan stuff, I could not find anything. So let's put that out there, right? There's no proof that Whitmer, Peters, Slocum universities or big donors in this state are named. None. Abuse at the camp? No. Recruitment only. Are there redactions hiding Michigan names? Victim safeguards? Not selective cover. More bombshells coming? Not in this drop, unless there's something that maybe I missed, but who knows? As far as I can see, no local people. And when I dug into it, again, justice.gov is where you can find this stuff. But keep them coming. Reply, DM, comment. We're going to tackle the real ones, or any comments really related to this or anything you think of. But here's the Michigan takeaway. Interlution is the verified wound in Michigan. Proof of early grooming from him in a trusted spot. People like that take advantage of it. Everything else, thin, veil, or completely debunked. The release pushes transparency, which is what they were going after, but redactions and hoaxes breed distrust. But here's our middle ground truth. Survivors, they deserve justice, man. These predators, people like this, they prey. They prey on things where people think that they're going to be in a safe zone. And we have to figure out a way to prevent this. We can't just lock everything up, and we have to figure out how can we how can we detect this stuff faster? How can we really go after it quicker? We got to beef up kid protections everywhere, obviously. This is no partisan score here. This is just ugly reality. We need to demand accountability from all, which apparently it seems in Michigan has happened. But if there's anything hidden, we need to demand accountability. If you guys, like I said, if you guys know more out there, let us know below. That's the raw Michigan Epstein truth, guys. No big bombs. So there's no excuses. There's no filters. If this got you thinking, fired you up, like, subscribe, share, spread the wake up call. Let's get everybody involved. Fuel independent Michigan coverage. Check out our main Finding the Middle mic. Go to buymeacoffee.com/TMGM right now. Donate even $1. Helps pay for everything. No left, no right, forward. We're made in Michigan. We're built for everywhere. What hit the hardest? Comment below. See you next time. Stay vigilant. Peace.